Hello and welcome to my channel, Number 9 Talk, with me and my guests, Jamie and Wilfred and Martin. Thanks for tuning in to anyone who is tuned in. And right, Chelsea at the weekend. What a heat of balls that was at the weekend. What I wasn't impressed at all. Jamie, do you want to give your?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much for having me on the channel, first and foremost, Dom. I appreciate it. It's always nice to come on a Newcastle channel, being a Man U fan, so a bit of a different take. Yeah, the result in general, I don't think anybody was surprised that you lost the game. I think a lot of people knew that was coming. I'd probably say there was 95% Newcastle fans tuning into that game knowing that it was going to be a tough afternoon. But I think it was more from a Newcastle perspective, it was the performance that really took me back. And as I say, I ain't a fan. So, for me to think, this isn't good, it was just complete negative football, but it's been like that for a long time now, hasn't it? So it's a case of maybe that's just the way it's going to be under Bruce. Something's got to give somewhere, hasn't it? I know we'll sort of maybe touch on a little bit more deeper in the later on in the show, so I'll keep it sort of for a bit later with regards to the bigger picture of the club. But I thought the performance, just none of them players can go into that dressing room and hold their heads up high. Some of them need to have a real look at themselves, I think, and that's talking from a neutral point of view as well. So I can't imagine what you three are going to say. But I think some of them do need to do a bit of soul searching and really question whether they want to play at that level, because some of them don't look League One, League Two standard at the moment in that team. And yeah, the manager's got to take some criticism as well, because he's setting the team up. But when you go across that white line, I've played a half the level, and you've got to want to play yourself as well. Sometimes you've got to appreciate you're against a better team, and you've got to dig in and pull your socks up and get on with it. I just didn't see that yesterday. They give up. There was players getting brushed off the ball and just completely beaten by better football players. But I've played against better football players, and I give it 110%. You know, so I just don't even see any like physicality from that Newcastle team, and they've got some strong boys in there. You know, so it was just complete boys against men. But it's unacceptable just to not put your foot in sometimes. That's for me, and as I say, I'm a complete neutral to Newcastle. I watch every single game as a fan of a different club. I concentrate on Newcastle quite a lot because I live in the city. So it's a case of and they're complete passengers at the moment. They're a waste of space, to be honest, if I'm going to be brutally honest with you. And I do feel for the fan base, because you've got a fantastic fan base and you deserve a lot better. You deserve somebody to chase. And there was no possessional play. There was no nothing yesterday. It was like they just didn't want to score. And then the couple of chances you did have, I thought, go on, like now commit. And when they've got Rudiger and Zuma in defence, these are not Sergio Ramos level players. You know, they've got mistakes in them. People were saying it on Twitter, oh, we can get at these. Not with Joelinton up front. I'm not even going to get onto him. I don't have enough time. But it's just abject across the whole pitch at the moment. And I think that performance sums up the whole club at the moment. It's just down in the dumps, and everybody just needs something fresh. But I'm going to stop talking now, because I could talk all night about this.
No, you're right. Yeah. Wilfred, carry on.
Well, what can I say? The first thing I'm going to say is, a manager is the most important person in the club, apart from the owners, because the charisma or the image of the manager would translate to the players and how they're going to play. Why did we like Rafa? You know, Rafa is a winner. He doesn't play attractive football, but you know he's going to organize a team. He will make sure he get the best out of the players. But Bruce, that's not Bruce. Bruce, I mean, people say Bruce is okay. Yeah, it's okay, but we don't want an okay manager. We want a good manager. We're a big club. You know, we've had Kevin Keegan, we've had Bobby Robson. You know, we've had these great people. We don't want people like Bruce to run our club. So I'm one of the few people that said it's not going to work. I knew it's not going to work, because when he was in Aston Villa, I used to follow Aston Villa's games and all that, and they were so poor. As soon as he was sacked, Do you know what happened? Aston Villa moved from 14th up onto the playoff and then got into the Premiership same year. So for me, Bruce is not a good manager. I'm sorry, he's not a good manager. The players are not playing well because the manager is not coaching them very well. You look at players we've got, Maximum, we've got, all these, really good players we've got. They should be doing better than that. We should be playing well. Look at Fulham today and Everton. If you're a neutral person, you're gonna love that game. Even though they lost, but they go out there, play good football, attacking football, and kind of excite everybody. When you watch Newcastle now, you just want to go to sleep. It's like you just want to watch it because you're a fan. It's so difficult, for young fans like my son, for example, who didn't know about Kevin Keegan, who didn't know about the entertainers, they will not have good memories of their club, So we need to change. I'm just praying and hoping the takeover is going to be, it's going to be successful so that we can get Ashley out of the way. As long as Ashley is there, he's not going to kick out Bruce. He wouldn't do it because he doesn't want to pay. He doesn't care about the club. He doesn't care about the fans. So our only saving grace is for us to have a successful takeover and then get Bruce out of the way. And then we can get a manager who can get the best out of these players. We don't need to get Messi or Ronaldo or all these top players. We have good players. All we need is a manager who knows how to coach, a manager who the players will respect, who the players will listen to. I don't think Bruce is that kind of a manager. People say he's a man manager, he get on well with players. It's because it's crap. When you crap, then you want people to love you, then you give them everything they want. Rafa doesn't do that. Rafa gets the job done. And the players love him for that. So for me, the performance on Saturday was very poor. It wasn't the Newcastle that we know. And I think it's going to get worse. So the solution, to me, it's for us to, have a successful takeover if that is still on. I hope it's still on. I still pray and hope it's going to come true. Once that is on, then we can start looking forward. But as long as Ashley is there, I don't think he's going to let Steve Bruce go because he doesn't care, really. He doesn't care. So there we go. So for me, the problem is Bruce. We've got good players, but if the manager is not motivating the players enough, if he's not getting the best out of the players, they're not going to play for him. They're not going to play for him. Because what we've got in terms of players, they are good players. These are really good players. They just need a bit of a motivated coach who knows what he's doing so that he can get the best out of them. I don't think Bruce is doing that at the moment. And I don't think he's going to be able to do it. So, I don't know where we'll be going, but fingers crossed. We live in hope.
That's all we can ask for. Martin, you're taking the whole situation.
I mean, let's start with the game. I mean, nothing better than an absolute shit show, to be honest. We were disorganized. I mean, it lays with Bruce. It starts at the top, right? So we know what we've got with Ashley, right? And he had Rafa. We've sat in front of TV screens and watched Charnley say, you know what? We've learned from our mistakes. We won't make the same mistakes again. We let Rafa walk away. Doesn't let him get the players he wants, puts the pressure on him. The man walks away. We end up with Bruce. Before Bruce gets to the club, there's a section of fans go, we'll give him a chance. There's other fans go, hate him, don't like him. For me, it was very simply looking at the statistics. Anywhere that Bruce has been, he's been a failure. He hasn't done well. His winning game percentage has been shocking. He's been dismissed from 4 of the last 6 or 7 posts. So you automatically know what you're going to get with Bruce.
Absolutely.
He's part of a regime of the Harry Redknapps, Steve Bruce, some of these other players that were pros, all game managers. The game has changed. The analytics and the game setup and the preparation of games that Benitez did, alongside, if you watched in particular the championship season, and I'll come to Lascelles in a minute, in particular with the likes of Jamal Lascelles, Rafa stood on that touchline, pointing, pushing, directing, keeping players up, telling them when to push up, telling them when to drop back, telling them when to press, telling them when to counter. There's a massive difference. We don't get any of that with Bruce. He sets up. If it works half the time, he runs with it. So if you look at where we currently are, you can say that Bruce is setting up to a very similar system that Rafa did. 5-3-2, 5-3-1, whatever you want to call it. The difference was when Rafa set up in that formation, we did counter-attack. We're setting up in the same formation now with no counter-attack. So if you look at the map, I think I've seen a map flying around on Twitter there today of where the Newcastle players were on the pitch as a whole. You've got 10 players that were bunched around the midfield, and Joe Linton was actually further back than Murphy was. So if we've got that, where the players, to me, don't know what their positions are and what the game plan is, we've not a chance of doing anything. I think the other thing for me on the game was pre-match, Bruce had conceded the game before we even took to the grass by going in front of the cameras and going, Chelsea are a great team. It's going to be really difficult. It'll be hard to match them. I don't want to hear that from him. I don't want to hear that from my manager of a club. I want to hear him say, do you know what? They've got great players, but so have we. We're at home. Okay, we've not got the fans there. But you know what? We're going to go out there. We're going to give it 110%, like Jamie said. We're going to try and match them up where we can. We'll counter-attack off the back of a 5, and we'll go for it. I think we did for the first 5 minutes of the game, and then we reverted to style. We hung back in the middle. The show that we were on Saturday, you could see very easily where the two lines of 4 and 5 were in the pitch. And Chelsea, very cleverly, I made a comment on the show that Werner and Abraham and Ziyech in particular picked up that line very quickly, and they just started to drop in between the two lines and mixed and matched and swapped positions, and we didn't have a clue who to pick up, what to do. The opening goal, Fernandes is facing completely the wrong way. He shouldn't be facing his goal, in my opinion, and gets caught out and wrong-footed. Own goal. The second goal, Werner runs, 50 yards? 40, 50 yards past 4 players? Why is nobody even sticking a boot in and taking a yellow and going, he's not running past me? Jamie, you played ball. If somebody on a pitch thought they were a bit of a superstar and ran past 3 of your pals, would you take a yellow and bring him down?
I was always the superstar. I couldn't defend to save my life, Martin. But yeah, of course, it comes down to basics.
Absolutely. Like if you look at the first half stats, 19% possession at home against Chelsea's 81, 126 passes or whatever it was against Chelsea's 400 and something, and 1 tackle. I'm sorry, lads. 80 grand a week, it's fucking not good enough. Not good enough in any shape or form.
Yeah, I only found out earlier, like about 25, 30 minutes ago, that Joe Linton was on £80,000 a week. I nearly choked on my coffee. Like, I was like, goodness me. Like,
crazy money. Yeah. But wasn't great. Great.
Yeah, that's the problem at the moment. It's no longer football. It's a money-driven business now. And unfortunately, I don't think Mike Ashley himself has actually cottoned on the fact what he has actually got in his hands. He's got on his hands a fantastic fan base and a fantastic ground city who will always get behind everything that Newcastle is. And I mean, you can say also it's the cathedral on the hill because it towers above everything that's in the city. So, we come back to you. It's Jamie. It's coming from a Man U fan. Have you been to St James's Park? Have you been in the cauldron that St James's Park is? and there's nothing there anymore. I mean, okay, we're not allowed to go into stadiums at the minute, but when you have been there, it's been a rocking place. If you've got the right ingredients to become successful in the team, what would your take be on the whole thing?
Newcastle as a whole, like the
club.
The
club, the city, how it all ties in.
Yeah. What I would say, Dom, as well, if you can stop mentioning and support Man U, mate, I might start getting some stick. Nah, I'm joking. Newcastle as a whole, like you said, it's got a beautiful stadium. I'm regular at St James's Park. I know people probably might find that a bit strange because I'm a Man U fan. I'm supposed to not like Newcastle, but I've got a little bit of a soft spot for Newcastle. I've lived up here for 10 years in a couple of days, so I've got a little bit of soft spot in my heart for Newcastle, and I'm always supporting them if they're not playing my team. So but yeah, the infrastructure is fantastic. There's certain elements of the club that need improving. Like you never really hear about a young player coming through at Newcastle, whereas I think a squad, a club the size of Newcastle's stature, and being a one city club, they probably should be producing a little bit more better younger players. Maybe that is the case, and there is some coming up, but I obviously don't follow the club close enough to realise that. I heard there was quite a lot of bit of hype around the boy Sorensen, but I've not really heard too much about him recently. I think he's on loan, isn't he? But yeah, like what you're saying, Ashley's got a gold mine, ain't he? He's got supporters that, I mean, that's the one thing that I always bring up when people talk to me about Newcastle and stuff like that. The fan base is just amazing. Like, just everyone you talk to, whether it's a 90-year-old man or a 7-year-old boy, like, they're all Newcastle daft. Like, I train a under-11s team, and they're all Toon fans, and like, you usually get a Man U fan, a Man City fan, and Arsenal. They all support Newcastle, and the amount of stick that they give me, honestly, is just on another level for being a Man United fan. So, but there's a lot that needs to change at Newcastle. Obviously, I think is at the moment, from my point of view, and I might be wrong. I'm just completely going at this from how I see it. I'm not a supporter, so I might get some things a little bit muddled up as to the truth sort of thing, because I don't sort of know the inside scoop on the club, just from what I hear from friends. I think the reason Bruce is there at the moment is because of this takeover situation. And I know Martin was saying there he does think it's going to go through eventually. I'm of the same opinion. I think something's going to have to give. I think Ashley's probably had enough. He's sick of investing his own money. Not that he's invested hardly any of it at all, but I think he's given up with it. The takeover will happen eventually. And I think the reason why Bruce is still there and you're getting the drivel on the pitch that you're getting at the moment is because, like what Martin said, Bruce, he is a dinosaur when it comes to tactics, formation. The game's changed. It's not a job. It's a job for the boys. Like Martin said earlier, it's the same old story at certain league-positioned clubs. If you're in the bottom three and you lose your manager, you can pick on two hands who's going to be coming in. And it's the same old story all the time. But Newcastle need to be brave and go out and get a young, hungry manager that's got different ideas, take into the analytical side of the games. Like Martin said, the football's changed. It's not the dinosaur 4-4-2 tactics anymore. So it's a case of, Darren's just popped up there, Bruce Ball. So nobody wants to see that, and there's a big opportunity there. But it comes down to the basics. You try hard when you put the top on for a start. You put effort in. There's no structure at Newcastle. There's no from top to bottom. It's like there's gaps in between communicational issues at the club. The recruitment's bad. If you're a manager, the way I see football, and football manager, let alone real life, so the way I see football is you go in there, you put your formation out on the pitch, and you buy the players to fit your formation. Yeah, clubs have smaller budgets. I mean, my club's a lot bigger of a budget than what you guys work off, but it doesn't mean you can't go and buy the right players. They don't have to be what the fans want. They have to be the right players. Scott McTominay gets a lot of stick off Man United fans, but he does a job every single game. It's the same with Fred, the same with Matic. They're not beautiful players to watch. They're not the Ginolas and players like that you boys have watched over the years. But you've got to pick the right players to play the formation. And I just don't see that at the moment. There's no ideas on recruitment. It's just like, Dad, you know what? He'll be a good player. Let's bring him in. It's a good price. Instead of, is it the right player? It's a good price. So there's loads of issues there. As I say, I could talk all night, and I'm going to stop talking now because other people need to talk, because I could talk all night about it. But there definitely needs to be a plan of action somewhere. Someone needs to sit down at that club and think, we've got to get our act together here and start putting a process in, not for now, for the next 5 years, and then go through with it that way.
I mean, just to say to you, Jamie, I mean, it's nice to get something that's not a fan, but from outside looking in, it's a good terminology of what Newcastle is at the minute. Just to extend to it there, Wilfred, Jamie just said there, the lay of the land and what we're used to as Newcastle fans, the Ginolas, the Keith Gillespies, the Alan Shearers. We're well beyond that now, and we're not attracting them type of players anymore. And are we a big club anymore? I still say we are, but many would disagree. What would be your take on that?
Yeah, I think being a big club is not about only winning trophies. You have to look at the history. You need to look at the history of the club. The people who've played for the club in the past. So when you look at Newcastle, you remember people like Kevin Keegan, Asprilla, you remember great players like Alan Shearer, like, Rob Lee, Gillespie, all these great players. We've got good history. I mean, if you're Man City, who are you going to remember about Man City in the past? I can't even remember, maybe Alan Ball or somebody, I mean, when you want to think about Man City of the past compared to where they are now, when they've got money, you can't compare them with Newcastle. I mean, Man United, big club, great club, big history, Ferguson and all the great players, in the past. So Newcastle is closely matched with them, apart from the fact that we haven't won a trophy for a very long time. So for me, I think what we need to get right, even when the new owners comes in, it's the manager. A leader or a team leader or a manager of any team or even in the office, if you've got a manager that people don't respect, that people don't, they don't take seriously, he's not going to be able to motivate the team, So you need a manager that the players is going to respect, to the extent that even if they're not winning, the fans are still going to be behind that manager. That's what we got with Rafa. I remember we went on a losing run for like about 10 matches. Nobody made any noise because we believe Rafa will do it. We believe he's going to pull it out, because he's got the experience. He's very calm. He's got a charisma. He knows how to unite the fans, the players, the city, the owners. That's why we all love Rafa. It wasn't because he's a great, entertaining manager who plays attractive football. No, but we've got that happiness, that confidence that any fan should have. At the moment, everybody is feeling sad. We're not happy. We're not enjoying being fans of our football club. So for me, it's not only about winning, it's also about, having that embodiment of what a football club should be, a source of joy where you take your kids, your family every Saturday to mix with people and, have banters and all that. We're missing all that. Even though we're not going to the stadium, if we had to go to the stadium now, I'm not sure any of us would be looking forward to go to the stadium, because there's no joy in the team. The players are not playing well. There's no action. There's nothing really progressive going on. So for me, Newcastle is a big club, but we need to really, hope and pray this takeover really comes true. If it doesn't, we're going to be in a big problem, because Ashley is kind of fed up. He doesn't want to be there. He wants out. And if he's going to be forced to stay in and keep himself as the owner, I can imagine seeing Bruce to be with us for the next 10 years, honestly. If he sacked Bruce, he's probably going to get someone like maybe Tony Pulis or any of these old-fashioned failure managers because he doesn't really care. So everything is going to tie down to what's going to happen with the takeover. So if the takeover, pulls through, then we can look forward to a good future where Newcastle potential will begin to come out. For me, it's not about £100 million player, all this Ronaldo. I'm not really into all the big players. It's about having a good foundation, a good unity between the fans, the players, and the entire club, so that we can start to build gradually. That's how a football club should be. It shouldn't be about overnight success. £100 million players, and after 1-2 years, win one trophy, and then we go back, to the same old situation again. No. So let's hope that the takeover is going to come true. And if it doesn't, then we will need a miracle because I just can't see Ashley sacking Bruce. And if he did, I can't actually get in an ambitious manager, So there you go. So everything is tied down to that takeover. And that's why we're also passionate about it. That's why we all keep hoping and praying. Like for me, I've never given up. I always believe that takeover will be done. I don't know when. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I believe that takeover will be done because it has to be done. It has to be done. Why shouldn't it be done?
Sorry.
It's a willing seller, a willing buyer. Why should anyone prevent trade? To me, it's not normal. And if you've got someone who's broken the rule of your, ODT test or whatever they call it, then show it to us. Prove it to us that one of them is a criminal or a bankrupt or someone who's been found wanting. If you can't prove that, I don't think Ashley should just go away. And if Ashley goes away, I'm ready to put my own money down as a fan to, do what the consortium fans are doing and sue them because it's just not right. If I want to sell my house and then my neighbor said to me, "Oh, I'm not going to allow you to sell your house," who does that? So that takeover is kind of, apart from the fact that I'm a fan of Newcastle, I don't think it's legally right for Premiership to prevent a trade. A willing buyer, a willing seller, they have to go through, all the legalities of, conforming with are you a criminal or are you a bankrupt and all the normal things that you should do. Once you can ascertain any legal impediment, then you don't have any reason to prevent the trade. So for me, we do not give up on that takeover because it's the only chance we've got. We must focus on that takeover. As a fan, we need to unite instead of fighting each other all the time on Twitter and, going against each other. We don't need that. If we really love this club, like we all claim to love Newcastle, we have to stay united and make sure we don't give up on it. That's my point.
Stop you there, Wilfred. Mine?
Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe that the takeover will happen. I'm like Wilfred. I think it is what is needed to move on. I think without getting into too much depth, I suppose, into it. You've a willing seller, a willing buyer. I think the Premier League have started to not only leak, but I think they've started to make some mistakes. I think we said on the show on Saturday. I was quite shocked that they put in the letter to Keith and the lads in the consortium that they were already under a legal challenge from NUFC. That to me doesn't seem what you would put in a letter to two other people who are also taking litigation against you. So I think the Premier League are an organisation who are under severe pressure. I think they're hemorrhaging money because of the current pandemic. I think they've made some bad business decisions. I think Masters and Hoffman, look, we can keep going around in circles with the takeover. I think everybody that, is aware of the situation with, Project Big Six and all the other stuff. We know what's been going on. We know that there's been outside influence. We know that Liverpool and Spurs protested. We know that Spurs tried to sell the club for 3.5 billion to the Saudis. The Saudis knocked it back. They've come in for Newcastle at the 10th of a price. So I can understand all of that stuff. So I think it will take time. I don't think it's going to be a quick thing, but I think it will happen. And I think that's the only thing that will see the club move on as such. Are we a big club? I think we have a big fan base, and I think we have a huge attraction to be potentially a massive club, not just a big club, but as good as any of them in the top 6, if not the top 2, with the right structure, the right plan, and the right people behind us that see that potential. And I think for me, the likes of Staveley and PIF and the Rubens, they see that potential. They see the fan base. The Rubens have already invested multi-million-pound deals in and around the city, so they get it. Like Rafa got Newcastle. I think they get what it means to the city to have that one club, to have 52,500 in there every single second week, paying for a win and everything else. So I think they see what we can be, but I think at the minute we're nowhere near. I mean, if you look at Leeds have come up, I wouldn't even say we're anywhere near them at the minute. Sheffield United last season were playing out of their skin. This season they've gone to bits. What's the difference? Hard to know. Manager hasn't changed, players haven't changed, but we need to be setting ourselves up. Like I watched the Leeds and Arsenal game today. Now, you could look at that as an outsider and go, do you know what? Leeds might get beat, but I tell you what, they went out there and they gave it a go, and they should have actually beaten Arsenal. The thing is, they set up, they attack. I put out a tweet. Every ball they played through midfield tonight, the Leeds team, it was a pass, a move, and a move forward. It wasn't what we do. If you look at that, I think whatever it was, there's a clip of the Newcastle game on Twitter. We get a throw in that goes back to a player, back to defence, and back to the goalkeeper from 20 yards out. So how can a team like Leeds come up and listen, respect to them, they're playing really well. They're on fire at the minute. But how can we not match that? I would say squad-wise, we've got a better squad than Leeds. We've got better players than Leeds. So to me, it boils down to Ashley has killed things at the top. I can get he doesn't want to spend hugely. I can get he doesn't want to invest in the stadium. I can get he doesn't want to do the other stuff. But I think this takeover is also his only hope. I think it's not only the fans' hope. I think it's Ashley's only hope, because he's never going to get that kind of money off it again. And I think he knows that, and that's why he's taken the actions he's taken. So I think the long term we will see a takeover. I think I think DeMarco and the rest of them will get to the Premier League. I don't think for 1 minute Masters, Hoffman, et al. Are going to want their dirty washing aired in public or on the steps of a court. So I'm quite confident that things will happen. But I think for me, it's how long does that take, and how long do we keep serving up the dire stuff that we're watching now?
Yeah. Just a question here from Daz. Question for the panel. Bruce, what has an effect? He goes, who do we realistically replace him with in the current circumstance? Which is a very good question. I've brought this up a couple of times. Who would we replace him with? Who would want to work with Ashley if this takeover doesn't go through? So, but I'll throw that with Jamie here, because, he's from outside looking in. Take it away, Jamie.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Good shout.
Right, Dom, cut him off. Come on.
We don't want him.
I had to.
We don't want a United reject there. We don't need another one.
I'm sorry. I'll go back to being serious now. Sorry, I had to. I think if you got to look at it logically and think, is he going to be a short-term fix? If that's what Darren was sort of alluding to, I'm just going to take it as he was. I obviously can't see what was written there. I would go for a disciplinarian. I think I'd go for somebody that's had a proven record of. I don't mean this disrespectfully, because particularly a bad club, but you're not playing well at the moment. So what I would say is I'd look for a manager that's good at working with a bad squad. I don't think you've got a bad squad. As a matter of fact, I think the complete opposite. I think you've got some really good players, but at the moment they're probably like a little bit of a disjointed squad. I think there's a lot of unhappy players there. I think there's some players that are not at the level to be at the club. That's Eddie Howe, yeah, potentially. But if obviously you're the perfect choice for the whole fan base would be Benitez, but that's not going to happen under this regime. Maybe if the Saudis do come in the end and Amanda Staveley does get away and get the club, that could potentially be a route forward. But I think, yeah, exactly that. Mrs. #9Talk is spot on. That's exactly what I was going to say. Someone like Claudio Ranieri that can come in and give the players a boost, tell players what they are. I think that's what they need at the moment. Whisper in the ear of some of these players that are sort of a bit down in the dumps and tell them, you know what, like, you just need to knuckle down here and sort of get your head down and start putting performances in. You've got the ability, even if you don't have the ability, just to hear that, it gives you a little bit of it gets an extra 10-15% out of a player. So someone like a Ranieri, a Nigel Pearson would be another choice for me. I know he's not the most popular guy to the Newcastle fan base, but he gets the job done. Do you know what I mean? He motivates players. Nobody talks about what he did with Leicester. He set up that base for Ranieri to come in. I know he finished it off with signings of like Mahrez and players like that took them to the next level, but they were a good team. Like, let's not get it twisted. They were a good team before Ranieri took over Leicester. 100%. But I think that the to narrow down to say is you've got to work out whether it's a long-term appointment or a short-term appointment. And if it's a short-term, you've got to go for somebody that's going to take no BS, so to speak, and sort of come in there and say, right, you just need to sit down now. You just need to listen to me. You just need to all get a grip here, and we need to start winning games now. And the longer term, you would look for someone just mentioned him a minute ago, like a Eddie Howe, somebody that's got a philosophy, somebody that's going to implement a style of play and try and make these players play a certain way. And not all of them will be able to do it. And that's what I'm saying. Again, it needs to come down to a formation of a manager's choice, the knowledge of what type of player he needs for each role. And then he goes out into the market and tries his best with the funds that he's got to implement that. Obviously, if the Saudis are in charge, the financial power is going to be a lot more. And that's obviously something for the longer term, which, like Martin says, I think something is going to give somewhere. And I think it probably will go up. But it's the only chance Joelinton's got, because if he's playing next to Mbappe in a couple of seasons, he'll probably look pretty good. But it's a case of there's got to be either short-term planning or long-term planning. And it's like I said earlier, I think that's why Bruce is still here at the moment, because there's so much uncertainty and nobody realistically knows what's going on in the background. But once they can sort of differentiate whether if I was a Newcastle fan now, I would want the club to come out and say, do you know what? I know you don't like Bruce. I know there's a bit of negativity there, but he's here till the end of the season, so like it or lump it. And then you know what you're dealing with. It's just constant uncertainty around Newcastle all the time. It's the one thing I get from the club, that nobody ever knows what direction they go in. Is it going to be another 5 years under Ashley? Is this progressing? There's just no chatter about it at all. But with regards to what Darren said, I know I'm yabbing on a little bit, but I have a lot to say about this situation with Newcastle at the moment. But it's either a short-term or a long-term. And based on the answer to that first question is what route you go down with a manager.
Yeah. I
Amen.
totally agree with that. Yeah, amen to you. Wilfred, who would you possibly want to see? I mean, I've come up with people like, Brendan Rodgers, who are a dynamic coach and manager. So who would you like to see come in, post or pre takeover?
I'll be honest with you. The only manager I think who can help us whether now or when the takeover comes through, I'll be honest, man of your is Rafa Benitez. Why did I say that? You know, Benitez gets Newcastle. He understands the club. He understands the fans. You know, I think our fans need to understand something about, you know, I'm not saying they don't understand football, but about being a manager. Being a manager is not just you getting the results. You also need to unify more than results in a football club. What Ferguson did in Manchester United for years, it's a legacy that we'll never have any manager who will be able to do that. Jamie, I hope you're going to agree with me. That's why you've had many managers after Ferguson, they still can't replicate what he's done because he's more like an institution. Yeah. So you need a manager. Maybe they don't play attractive football. It's not all about attractive football alone. Who is going to settle the fan base? That's what Benitez did for us. You know, we were all happy. Even when he's losing games, we're still happy because he understands us. We understand him. We believe he's got the experience. We believe he has the know-how. We believe any player would like to play for him. And I believe if he has the right players, he will have played very good football. He's not a defensive manager like people always say, oh, Benitez doesn't play good football. He can only use the tools he has. So if he has all these good players that we have now, Benitez will do really well. So for me, if Bruce leaves, we need a temporary manager.
Yeah.
For us to know where we are with a takeover. Because we need to get it right. Nigel Pearson, like Jamie said, I believe Nigel Pearson is a good manager because he's a no-nonsense guy. He knows his stuff. He got his last football club, what's it called? I can't remember the name now. Watford. They were playing good football. They beat Liverpool 3-0, So he's that kind of a manager that when he comes into the kind of squad we have, he'll settle them down, he'll get them to play football and at least get us to the end of the season, being in Premiership, hopefully. And then when the takeover comes in, we need to find the right manager who will understand the culture of Newcastle. Newcastle is a unique club. Our fan base are so passionate, are so different that you need to get us. You need to have this kind of loving with the fans, like Kevin Keegan did, like Bobby Robson did, like Benitez did. Those are the three managers in recent times that I can remember who really understand Newcastle fans. Because if the fans don't like you, you're going to be in trouble. Remember Paddy? He took us to Europe. He got to number 5 on the table. We still didn't like him, So it's not just about any manager coming in. People say about Pochettino and all these people. You must know the politics that involves uniting the fan base, the owners, the players. That's very important. It's not just the tactics alone. You have to be politically savvy, understand the fans, understand the culture of the people, and then be able to unite everybody. Bruce can't do that. He hasn't got the ability to do that. So that's why he's having all this problem. Benitez lost so many games. We didn't rise up. We didn't abuse him. We didn't insult him. We were just very patient with it. And that's what you get when you have a manager that you respect. So our next manager has to be a manager that, understand Newcastle fans, because we're very unique. We're not like any other fans. We're very passionate. We're very hurtful when we're not winning. And we're very political in nature in terms of even the way we interact with each other. So you need to be able to come in and understand the fan base, understand what this club is all about, understand that we're hurting, and understand that, we need to be patient. I have a plan for you. Somebody who, when he talks to us, we're going to listen. So it's a big, big role for the next manager who will replace Steve Bruce. Who is that going to be? To be honest with you, I don't know. It's a big field. But if there's anybody that I can say, right, if I have to nominate somebody who can come in and do a good job, if he has money to spend, I'll say Benitez. Benitez is not a defensive manager. People keep saying that, forgetting that this man manages Real Madrid when they were scoring 8 goals, 6 goals. He manages Chelsea when they won Europa Cup. They were playing attractive football, So when he has the right player that he needs, he will perform for us. And I believe he has an unfinished business with Newcastle. So to me, I'm a Benitez apologist. I like him. I respect him. And I remember the first time I took my son to St. James's Park, he was about 9 years old. He was so in love with Benitez because of his, the way he was standing on the touchline. Like Jamie said, he was giving instruction, directing the players, talking to them. He didn't sit down for the whole 90 minutes. That's the kind of manager you want. Somebody when he has a presence, somebody who's got a presence, who's got charisma, that people are going to listen to. So if we're going to find somebody like that, if he's not Benitez, I'll be happy. But there are very, very few managers around at this point in time that we can get to replace Bruce. So my opinion is, if we let Bruce go, we just need a temporary appointee until the takeover is sorted. So Nigel Pearson, I think is going to be, it's not going to be the long-term manager for us, but a stopgap manager. But I believe Nigel Pearson will do better than Bruce at this point in time.
Yeah. Can I just bring up on my comments so far? I'm actually quite disappointed with someone who's bringing up some comments. Toon Ted, what's going on, son? Please come off my stream if you're going to be posting things like that. I don't want you on my thread. Thank you. Just to be respectful to you and respect for me, please don't post anymore. Anyway, Martin, on the same basis, what would be your first in line? We've had Rafa come through. He seems to be waiting for something at the moment in his interviews with different people on the media. Who would you like to see come back, or who would you like to see appointed instead of Bruce? Well, as I said, it's difficult in this market at the minute. Who can improve on what Bruce is doing?
I think there's two problems, Dom. I think you've got who would currently want to come in and work under the current regime is the first problem. So for me, this I think it has to be until the takeover. If Bruce goes, and I suspect he probably won't, unless, as I said, that if the takeover is carrying on in the background, the consortium feel that the asset is a threat, and Ashley feels the same. Because look, we all know if we go down this season and keep showing the form we are and hit the championship, he's never going to get the money he's been offered now. Now, that's not to say that the Saudis wouldn't still take it and go, well, we'll give you 200 million because we've got to put 50 back in to get the team back up into the Premier League again. So you don't know. So for me, and I said it pre-show, I put on Twitter earlier on about Nigel Pearson as a stopgap. I think we've got some problems in the team. I think we've got some problems in players. If you look at the likes of ASM, right, fresh off the back of a 6-year contract, he's been shite recently. Yeah. I know people will say that he's our best player and this, that, and the other. If you are, show that. You just got a 6-year new contract. Go out there, be that star man, be the next Ginola. Why is he not performing at the minute? Lascelles, I've said again on Steve's show, Jamie, you've been on a couple. I've said Lascelles for me is not a leader, is not the captain, and has regressed massively since Benitez went. Big difference with Lascelles and Benitez. Benitez managed him and coached him. Started to get him to a point. Lascelles should be, as a centre-back, in his prime with his age at the moment. And he's not. He's been awful. I would put Clark, Fernandez, and probably Dummett in front of him at the moment because I think he's been woeful. There's no leadership from it. So I think there are problems with the players. I said a couple of shows back, I firmly believe that the dressing room has been lost. And I stand by that. I think that dressing room has started to come apart. I think there is a faction of players who don't like Bruce. And I think things in the background are being said and done. Now, Is it a full-on revolt? Probably not. But I think there's noise. And I said it before. We were on our chat today. Myself, Jamie. There's bits and pieces going on. We think. I've been saying it for weeks. There is some form of disharmony amongst some of the players. And if you look at some of the players who aren't performing, ASM, Lascelles, Hayden, some of these other players who are big voices in the dressing room, something going on. So I think you need a strong character. And listen, Pearson won't be everybody's choice, and I get that. But for me, if it's a pre-takeover choice as opposed to Bruce, would he be an improvement on Bruce? I think he would. I think he did good at Leicester. I think Leicester were in a bit of a shit state, similar to where we were. I think they had some issues. I think Watford were exactly the same. And he went in, he acted as a bit of a disciplinarian. He dealt with some egos. He got them back on track. And to be fair, with Leicester, as Jamie said, they were playing some good ball when Ranieri come in. He was unlucky, I think, Pearson at that stage. He went to Watford. I think he was already on a sinking ship with Watford. So I think from Ashley's perspective, if we don't change anything in January, let's just say we've got 5 games coming up. I can't see at the minute, given Saturday's form and our last few games, and let's not forget we've lost 7 out of the last 9, I think it is. If we don't pick up points from a West Brom or from a Crystal Palace, I struggle to see that we'll get some points over the next 3-4 games. I think West Brom will give us a run out. They put 3 past Liverpool. I think Crystal Palace will cause us problems. So I think we could be in for a tough 5 games, not an easy 5. And where we picked up points last season was against some of the bigger teams, if you want, the Man Uniteds and the Chelseas, where we picked up wins. We beat Chelsea last season at home. We got beat 2-0 the weekend. So where we didn't pick up points was with those teams that were in amongst the race for relegation and in that bottom half. So that worries me. So I think Pearson could do a job if Bruce was to go, but I think that Ashley needs to make a decision. If we're starting to drift by January, Daz, I wish I put money on. You should. In actual fact, I'd like Daz instead of Steve Bruce. So there you go. I think Pearson could do a job and steady it. I think there's definitely some issues with players. Longer term, yeah. Listen, I liked Benitez. Did he play great football all the time? No, he didn't. But look at his winners' medals. Look at his winners' medals. Now, if it's somebody coming in and buying a club and you just want silverware, does it matter? If you're a Newcastle man or a Man United fan or any other team, Leicester, whoever, do you really give a crap if it's decent football if you're winning trophies at the end of the season? Really? As long as we're winning. Mm-hmm. But is that everything? Maybe we want to see both. I don't know. Would I take Benitez back? I'm not sure. I think that maybe there are factions of the consortium would like to have Rafa back, and I think Rafa would like to come back to finish to carry on with unfinished business and the project that he had. If I could have the choice of a manager, I know we talked about Poch and a few others. I'd like to see Max Allegri. I'd like to see somebody like an Allegri. I think there are managers around Europe, young and up and coming, that we could look at. I mean, if you look at the lad that's gone to Southampton, he really came out of nowhere. But if you look at how Southampton played against us the other week, there, it's chalk and cheese. Guy sets up, got a system. He's put his arm around the likes of Danny Ings, Theo Walcott. We were outplayed. So, there are managers out there. I don't necessarily know if Benitez coming back is the answer for me. I'd like to see an Allegri or someone like that.
You should never look back, unfortunately. I mean, we had Keegan come in when Ashley took over the club. Could he have done a better job? Yes, he could have. Did he have his hands tied? Yes, he probably did. But then he was undermined by the troll that is. I can't think of his name at the minute. But yeah, but it's a problem that is been of Ashley's making, this club, and you can't blame anyone other than himself for not actually,
Look,
investing.
to Ashley, it's not. He doesn't. Look, he wants to sell. I don't necessarily think he gives a shit about the club. I don't think he does. It's just, to him, I think over the last 13 years, it was bought as an investment. He ran it like a business, does run it like he does any of his other businesses. It's about getting, putting limited into it, but getting maximum out of it. As a businessman, listen, that's a very good business model. That's what you want. But when you got, the fan base that we have, and you got 52,000 turning up there every second week, and you go from, and let's run back on managers we've had, Fat Sam, Kinnear, Hardew, McLaren, Bruce. Are we going to get any different under the current regime? Rafa was the best thing we've had, in a long, long, long time. But he wasn't allowed to manage. So is he going to come back under the current? Look, let's be realistic. No, he's not in the Sundays. Would Staveley bring it back? I believe she would. But at the minute, we've got what we've got. I clearly think by January, if we have started to drift away and those below us start to pick up a few points in this next 4 or 5 games, we don't win nothing. I tell you, it could be a different ball game. Absolutely different ball game. And I think Ashley, if the takeover is still rumbling, will need to make a decision in January. That's what I think.
Yeah. Just to come to you there, Jamie, from the outside looking in, what would you say would be the best scenario from the Saudis taking over? And do you think the Saudis will take over? There has been problems, which I have read about, and Hafiz Cengiz has come out of the woodwork again and started talking about, the human rights and whatever else, which we all understand. But there's no need to be bringing it out every 5 minutes. We know what the regime was about, but should any of the other countries be given the same to KSA of what they've had, to improve themselves, to put themselves in the forefront?
Obviously, I don't know too much with regards to what the situation is with the takeover and stuff. I obviously know people's counter argument as to why they shouldn't be allowed to buy the club and stuff like that. But I mean, it's all opinions, isn't it? But with regards to, I'm just going to talk more based on the football club side instead of the sort of politics, because as I say, I don't really know too much about it all. I just know from our group chat that me and Martin are a part of about what sort of goes on with regards to the takeover and stuff, and just general on Twitter and stuff, what people put on. So I don't really know the actual nitty gritty of it. But with regards to the actual club, I think they do need it. They need it desperately. Obviously, the financial power is going to help anybody. I know guys and everybody that's going to be listening to this is going to be thinking, I would love it if they took over. To be honest, if I'm being brutally honest with you, I'd love them to take over my club. But it's a case of that's another story for another channel. But it's a case of the financial implications that it would have. It would allow Newcastle to go in the market heavily for good players, and let's be real, good players make good teams. So and it would give you that. I think what Martin was saying about Allegri there, I think they would have a pull of an Allegri if they had the financial backing. Managers ain't going to come to Newcastle under this regime purely for the fact of they know they're not going to be backed. So their hands are tied behind their back before they've even started. You can be as tactically clued up and all of that in general, but it means nothing if you're not allowed to go buy your own. I don't know if Newcastle have a director of football. I know my club don't, which I think that's a bit of an issue. They don't. So that might be something they'll look at, but I generally do think if the Saudis do come in, they'll completely they'll iron out every issue at the club. They'll go out and hire the best in class manager that they can get at the time. They'll build they'll build on the youth academy. They'll probably upgrade the training. The whole club will change with that financial backing, and that will obviously manifest itself onto eventually the pitch. And then you'll have the team you all deserve, you know. As Martin was saying earlier, 52,500 every week. And to go back to what you were saying earlier, Dom, have I been to the games? I do go quite regularly. So I've been in there when I've been in there singing songs at Pickford. Don't worry about that. But I've been there on good nights. My first game was a European night. I took my little sister to a game when you were in the Europa League at the time. You played Benfica. So I've been in St James's Park quite a lot, and you can't help but think, you know what? If they just had a certain 11 on the field, and it all comes down to money. As I say, you can be as analytical about the game as you want, but if you've got the financial backing, you can go into the market and get the players you want to fit the system. So and it will create a lot of jobs as well. People don't ever look at that side of things. They just think about the footballing aspect, but the city as a whole will benefit from that takeover. Let's be real here. Like, lots of people are going to be getting jobs. People are going to be working match days. They're going to need staff for all the IT and stuff if they build a bigger training complex. So everything will be beneficial towards the club. And as I say, the bigger picture is you'll all get a team you can
be proud of, yeah, of course. But like you just touched on there, I've been trolled on Twitter because the fact that, you know, would be so supportive if it wasn't just bringing money to your club. I says, no, it's not just about bringing money to the club. It's about bringing money to the area and to Newcastle itself. And it wasn't just about, you know, bringing, you know, the top dogs players into Newcastle. It was about bringing jobs and security to the Newcastle people, you know, in the area. And which upset me quite a bit, but there you go. Right, guys, time's running down. What I want to do is touch on the next game, Crystal Palace. I'll start with you, Jamie. What could the best score line you could come up with?
He's playing away.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Obviously, he's desperately need a win, but I have a feeling that if I'm gonna go with my gut here and keep this simple, but I think Bruce will go there for a point, and I think they'll beat us. Yeah. I think they've got too much pace for that defence, and if he goes there with that mentality of getting a point, Wilfred Zaha, young easy on the left wing, and Jordan Ayew, they'll terrorise that defence if he goes with that mindset. If he goes positive, and if Wilson's back in the team, then that's a completely different conversation. But from what I've seen over the past month, I don't really think that's probably going to happen at the moment. But by God, do they need a result? That's a no-lose game, that is.
Yeah. Well, as long as Bruce is still managing the team, I can't have any hope for any match, whoever we play. For me, I think that game is probably going to go there, 10 men behind the ball, unhappy players. I can't see any result for us. I think it's going to be Crystal Palace one.
Yeah.
I think so.
Martin?
Oh, it's doom and gloom, isn't it? It's definitely time for beer. Yeah. I mean, look, Palace away. I think Zaha alone is probably enough to worry out back four or back five. If we play the same, is he going to change formation? I can't see him. I mean, I'd love to see him go down there and go for the win. Go with a 4-4-2. But he's probably going to play Joe Linton again. But if Wilson's fit, when we played Joe Linton just off the back of him in a couple of the cup games, I actually thought they played well together. So that might be an option. But I think he'll go. As Jamie said, I think he'll look to go and try and snatch a point away from home. If he does that, then I think it could be game over. The worrying thing is we've got 2 away games now, Palace and then Villa. I think Villa will terrorise us as well, unfortunately. Following game is West Brom at home, which at that stage, if we've got nothing from the 2, we definitely need to be taking points off West Brom. But yeah, I think it'll be tough. I'll go for a 1-1 draw. There you go.
Yeah, sounds about right. I'll if I want to stick my neck out, a 1-0 win. I'm going to stick my neck out, 1-0 win. I think Palace is the team we've taken to the wire, but it's decided one way or the other. Anyway, guys, thanks for tonight. I know I'm looking a mess today. I've been ill recently, so I've not exactly been with it. So thanks to everyone that's been on, and we'll see you guys. Thanks very much.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Guys.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Take it easy, Dom.
Yeah, you too, mate. Anyway, thanks for my guests tonight. Much appreciated. Like I said, I've not exactly been myself the last few days. But thanks again. Thanks for the comments. And thanks for the thumbs up tonight. And good night, you Rajis.